So, what are we talking about today? We are talking about an author's growth mindset. What is it? Why is it important? And how can you foster one for yourself? I am so excited about today's webinar because mindset is one of my favorite topics to talk about because it saved my life. Honestly, it really did. And I will get into that story in a moment, but let's just do this preamble thing here. So in the next 30 to 60 minutes, you are going to learn what it means to have a growth mindset as an author and how to nurture and develop that author's mindset for yourself. And because I do have a lot of slides, it may actually go to the 60 minutes. We shall see. You are in the right place. If you have struggled with confidence, imposter syndrome, or any of the other myriad mind goblins that authors face. It is for you. This webinar is for you. If you have failed at achieving your goal of writing a book this year and are ashamed of yourself for your lack of commitment and tenacity, and you are in the right place if you have tried all sorts of methods for motivating yourself to write your book and are as frustrated as a cat in a window with a bird feeder stuck to it because you haven't been getting results. That's what I'm here for you today. So who am I? Why do you want to listen to me? Well, here's my story as an author. I have created the world's first author diagnostic software. I am the author of 5 books. 2 of them made it to bestseller, 1 won 3 awards. I've also contributed to numerous anthologies, most of which have become international bestsellers. And I'm certified in the Storyway Guide methodology, which is a way of pulling out information about your life so you can create a legacy book, which is basically a memoir. And I'm certified in author marketing. But what's the coolest about me? I'm a total sci-fi geek. And as you might be able to tell from these pictures, I love to pose with things. The first picture on well, it's on my left. It might be on your right, but that's me with Wall-E from the Pixar film when there was a Pixar exhibit at the Science Museum here in the Twin Cities. And on the top right, I'm posing with the big Godzilla thing at the movie theater because I'm giving him what for. That was such a cool movie. I love the whole trilogy. The Skull Island was the best in my opinion, but that you didn't ask for my opinion about science fiction movies. The bottom 2 are me and my husband. We like to go to science fiction events together. And on the bottom most, that's us with Gary Lockwood. Now, if you're not familiar with that name, or you're thinking, gee, I kind of know that name. If you've seen Space Odyssey 2001, A Space Odyssey, you've seen Gary Lockwood because he was like one of the first people you see. And he's also one of the first people that gets killed. He's the one who goes out, he does a spacewalk and then dies out there. And then the other one is my husband and I are Worldcon, and we're posing with Han Solo in Carbonite. So geek alert. But also, and here's the story I promised. The reason why you might want to listen to me about mindset is because I have gone through this work. My story in a nutshell is somehow when I was a little girl, I got the message that I didn't matter. And part of how that manifested is I attracted men into my life who were very unhealthy. My first marriage was to a man who was verbally and on occasion physically abusive and really made me feel like I was going crazy. And when I left him, I ended up in another relationship with an even worse guy. In fact, I remember our last 6 months together, I was praying, literally praying to God that he would lose interest in me and go away. Because I was scared of him. And the fear was founded because on the night we officially ended our relationship, that's the night he attacked me. He poured water on me in my bed. He fractured my orbital. And once I was able to escape and called the police, he ended up in prison for less years than his sentence. But it is what it is. So after that experience, I realized that if I kept being who I was and doing what I was doing, the next guy would kill me. So I took a year off from men and I worked on my mindset. I studied universal laws. I went to counseling. I learned about domestic violence. And I really got to a point where I like who I am. Am I perfect? No, no one is. But I like who I am. And I want a man who likes who I am. So when I went on my first date with my now husband, I threw all unfiltered karma at him. And you know what? He loved it. And we went on our first date in 2015. We were married in 2016 at the age of 50. So it's never too late to find the love of your life. And, so that was 2016. So we're celebrating 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 6 years together. And we might as well be going on our first date because I'm still very much in love with him. But that is how important mindset is. Author's growth mindset. Okay. You may or may not be an author. Growth mindset can save your life. It is a matter of life and death. And that's why today's presentation is so important. So let's move on. Enough about me. Let's move on. By the end of this webinar, you will have learned 3 things. You will have learned what a growth mindset looks like as an author. You will know why it's important to develop a growth mindset as an author. And I will provide you with at least 5 actionable steps that you can take to foster an author's growth mindset. So how excited about this are you? Which Thor are you? I want to know which Thor are you. Are you number 1? Yes, happy Thor. Are you number 2? Pensive, possibly angry Thor. And if you're number 2, why are you still watching? And then there's number 3, confused Thor. So I want to know which Thor you are. I'm really hoping you're number 1. And if you aren't number 1 and you continue watching, you end up being number 1. Yes, Thor. So what does it mean to have a growth mindset as an author? That's the first thing I'm going to cover today. So in order for us to understand what these things mean as an author, I want to give us a base in what the concept is in general, a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, because you're going to have one or the other. So if you have a growth mindset, you embrace challenge. You understand that you can train your brain. You can learn things and change and grow. You understand that in order to develop mastery, it takes a little bit of effort. It may take a lot of effort, but it takes effort. You can't just sit there and bing, I'm a master. Wouldn't that be cool if you could, though? And you understand that feedback is how you can learn. Good feedback, bad feedback, in between, neutral feedback. It's all something that can inform you and help you become better. And the success of others inspires you. You see other people be succeeding. You're like, I could do that too. It lifts you up. Now, conversely, if you have a fixed mindset, you avoid challenges like the plague. And you think that things are just too hard to learn and that what you know now is what you're ever going to know. You just think learning is too hard, and so you give up. And there is an aspect of the fixed mindset where you expect rewards without any effort. You feel like, well, I put up the page, people should just come by. Well, you got to get people to the page. Or you slap your book up on Amazon. You're like, well, why aren't people buying? It's there. Because things take effort. God helps those who help themselves. Or another way to say that, trust in Allah, but tie up your camel, which I learned from Sinbad, another one of my geeky favorite movies. You don't pay attention to your feedback if you have a fixed mindset. And the success of others makes you feel like a failure. You take, well, that person succeeding, they're better than me. They're somehow different. They've got magic pixie dust and I don't. That's a fixed mindset. So what does this look like as an author? An author growth mindset thinks this set of thoughts. I embrace challenges. I embrace the challenge my book presents and I face it head on, which means, when you're writing a book, sometimes it's easy and it flows. And sometimes it's hard and it doesn't flow. But if you've got a growth mindset, you stick to it anyway. You don't just give up. An author with a growth mindset understands that if they don't know how to do something for their book, if you don't know how to write a book, you learn. You understand that you can learn and you can grow and you can change. And if at first you don't succeed, you just try again. Not necessarily the same thing, because that's the definition of insanity, but you try something new to get around whatever issue you're having. And you learn from mentors, from reviews, good ones and bad ones. You understand these things are learning experiences. And I'm saying this because I've experienced all these things. And successful authors inspire you to be a success too. Now, if you're feeling the thoughts on this other side under author fixed mindset, then you need to be able to turn those around if you want to have a growth mindset, because an author with a fixed mindset gives up and stops working on their book when they're faced with a challenge. They feel like they can never get the hang on of this, so they don't finish writing their book. And they're, like I was saying at the last, if they publish it, they will come. And if they don't come, I'm a failure. Bad reviews make you want to drop everything and drown yourself in a pint of Ben & Jerry's. Or is that just me? Whatever your comfort food is. Other authors that are successful, you think is because they have some sort of magic pixie dust that you don't. So that's an author's fixed mindset compared to an author's growth mindset. So why do you want to nurture a growth mindset? Here are a few benefits that you can get from nurturing this. You will be able to build bridges with your readers and with other authors, because when you're able to do things with other authors, it lifts you up. When they learn something, they share it with you. Sometimes you can do joint ventures, and an author with a growth mindset really is able to build the bridges that are necessary for those relationships. You gain more joy and satisfaction from your work, even when it's a flop. You continuously improve on your author skills and your author career. You learn from your mistakes so that you can write better books. Each book is better than the one before, right? You build confidence in your ability to write, publish, and market your books. There's more. You bounce back from a bad review with grace and ease. And that actually should be bad reviews. So I'm going to, never mind. I'll edit it later. You're able to see the silver lining in all your author experiences. You compete against yourself and not other authors. You're able to grow with the times and with the trends. I mean, things that worked like a year ago don't necessarily work now. And believe me, the way you market and sell a book, a lot of the things that worked before the pandemic are not as effective now. And other things are becoming, because people's priorities have changed. And if you've got a growth mindset, you can roll with the changes. And also you understand that single outcomes don't define you. And there's nothing more freeing that. So this last book was a flop. Does not mean the next book will be. Yes. These are what really make having a growth mindset so freeing and joyful. When you can't do these things, life becomes very dark and filled with despair. I don't want that for you. So here we're going to go into how to nurture an author's growth mindset. Mindset tip number one, know your purpose. And the way you understand your purpose is find out what excites you, what interests you. Learn how to follow your inner voice. Because when you are confident in who you are and you understand where you're going, everything else gets easier. And you can do this in a multiple, you can do this by finding your passion, following your passion. This is really important in developing your author brand because knowing your purpose helps you develop your brand promise. And once you've developed your brand promise, awesome. It makes it so easy to say, yes, this book is right for my business. No, this book is not. And you can, and it frees you to let go of, if you're like me, I have like 10 million ideas floating around my head and they're like, write me, write me, write me. Well, not all of them are right for me. So having a brand promise and knowing where I want to go with my author career is really freeing because I can say, that's a great idea, but it's not right for me. And then I can share it with someone else and maybe it's right for them. Or I can just put it away. Or if I do write that book, I know it's a passion project and I'm not expecting it to grow my business. So knowing your purpose just as an author is just, it's so foundational. And it's something that you can actually do. You can actually take steps to understand what your purpose as an author is. In fact, I have an author branding workshop that will help you do that. If you're interested, message me. I'm not selling that right now. Author growth mindset number two, fail forward. Now, that's not my term. I can see the guy's face. I'm forgetting his name. Oh, I hate when I do that. It's like I'm losing brain cells or something. But anyway, the way you fail forward is you accept that you will have failures. Because believe me, you will. Honestly, as an editor, I was a writer and editor in the corporate world for close to 3 decades. And it did not matter how many people edited a piece. I would edit it, a coworker would edit it, my boss would edit it, and then we'd print it and find a typo. That's like, how did we not see that typo? Failures happen. And that's just a small failure, but there's going to be big ones too. I mean, there could be like, for example, this book right here, Home Sweet Homepage. I put so much work into this second edition and it looks great. And honestly, it's still a good book. I think I did good work, but my messaging was off. So I'm getting bad reviews. And one of the things I did for the book was I developed this entire like online course and I loaded it with videos and templates and checklists so that anyone who bought the book could give me their email address and get this like $500 worth thing for free to really help them with their website. Not one person, and that became a bestseller in 3 categories. A lot of people have purchased that book. Not one has signed up for that course. I spent so much time on it. So much time. Talk about a failure. Ouch. Ouch. But I learned from that failure. And that's another thing. You know, my messaging was completely wrong. And my initial goal for the book was primarily just to change my name on the cover because the first version had my former married name. Now it has my name. And so there was a lot of disconnect in that process. I put a lot of work, but it wasn't focused work because I didn't do number one. My tip number one. Do as I say, not as I do. So you have to acknowledge your irrational beliefs about failure, because failure is not an end. It's a milestone. So if you believe that failure happens, that's the end, don't go forward, you need to change that irrational belief. And there may be other irrational beliefs. That's just the one that came to mind. So fail forward. Allow failure to propel you forward to better outcomes. Author growth mindset number 3. Learn from your mistakes, which I just talked about, and fail forward. But you redefine failure as an alternate route to success. And you figure, okay, and you also understand, like, what can this bad review tell me about how to do things better next time? I mean, like the bad reviews I got on that book I just shared with you, ouch. Not all of them are. Some of them are like, did you read the description of the book? Or it's like, okay, some reviews are just like erroneous. And so I think some people they had, I don't know, burnt toast for breakfast. And so they write a bad review. I don't know. Some people are just like that. But some of the reviews, I'm like, okay, there's a grain of truth there. I'm gonna learn. And if I do decide to do a version 3 of that book, it will be immensely better because of my bad reviews. And when you get flops, like I did here, troubleshoot them. Find out what caused it to flop. I'm pretty much convinced it was messaging in that book. I just got the messaging wrong. I will do it again. I will do it better next time. So that's what you do. You learn from your mistakes because you're going to make them. You're going to make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And it doesn't matter how many times you learn from a mistake, you will make new mistakes. It's just the way things are. You just have to accept that and not let it bring you down. My author growth mindset number 4, get out of your comfort zone. I mean, now this piece of advice, read books outside your genre and learn from them. I got that piece of advice from my favorite author of all time. God rest his soul, bless his heart, Ray Bradbury. I've seen him speak several times, and he always drop that little gem of advice. And I took it to heart, and I read all over the map. I tend to write business books. And then in my fiction world, I tend to write science fiction, fantasy. I have written a couple of mundane things, but pretty much I write science fiction, fantasy kind of stuff. And I write about mindset and I write about business. So that's like public speaking, websites, things like that. But I don't just read those things. I just picked up at at the library the other day. I bought a book because they sell them there too. A book. It might be magic realism. I don't know. It's written by an Indian author, Indian author, and it just looked interesting. And I read stuff that's not science fiction. I read stuff that's not fantasy. I read stuff that's not business. If a book intrigues me, I read it. And I read all over the map. And that includes articles, that includes books. Because when you do that, you can see things outside of your little box. And you can maybe come up with new tropes that aren't being used in your genre. So for example, when I read Stephen King's first fantasy novel, my friend who was a Stephen King fan said, oh, it's so predictable. It's so Stephen King. Well, I had been reading I'd never read a Stephen King book before. I'd been reading fantasy. It was not predictable as a fantasy novel. It was like new and different. And he took things in different directions than what I was used to, because he didn't normally write fantasy. He wrote horror. So these are the kinds of things that you can do when you read outside your genre. Another thing you can do to get out of your comfort zone is take a chance on yourself and on your book. If you've never written a book before, just write one. What's the worst that can happen? You don't publish it. Hey, believe me, I have books in my files that will never see the light of day because they're crap. But sometimes you have to write the crap book in order to get to the good book. And sometimes pieces of that crap book will become good books. You never know. But you got to take a chance on yourself. You just got to sit down and do it. And it doesn't have to. There are ways to get a book written fairly rapidly. And if you're a blogger, you probably already got a book written. You just need to organize it. Anyway. And also, another way to get out of your comfort zone is to be adventurous and experiment once in a while. And the reason why I chose this ziplining picture is because I'm a little afraid of heights. So I went to this travel show and they were doing like a little taste of zip lining. It was literally, they had a platform and you could zip over to a ladder and then walk down the ladder. I mean, you zipped for about 10 feet. And I thought, okay, looking at it from the ground, it's not that high. I can do this. There's professionals here. I can do this. So I climb up the platform, put on all the gear, and then I stand on the edge of the platform. And I'm like, I swear it probably took me 15 minutes to take that step, because you just have to trust the line. And they're like, Carma, you can do it. You can do it. Come on. Come on. There's people behind you. And so I took the step, and oh my God, it was such an awesome experience. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I haven't ziplined again, but believe me, it is on my bucket list. I want to do what's in this picture. I want to zip line in a forest or over the ocean or something, because I've seen one like that goes over all the things like in the Bahamas somewhere. I want to. Anyway, be adventurous, experiment, live life so that you can write about it and do something you haven't done before. I mean, even as a writer, I don't even read erotica, but there is a short story in my file that is erotica. And I've actually had people who write in that field take a look at it and they're like, yeah, that's really predictable. Well, I wouldn't know. But it's a way of experimenting as a writer. I mean, I experiment with my poetry. I experiment with short stories. I experiment because I want to see, will this work for me? And sometimes I find out it doesn't. And sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. I think I'll use that. But you'll never know that if you're not adventurous and experiment once in a while. Author growth mindset tip number 5. Cultivate curiosity. I love to say curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought him back. I'm a painfully curious person. And because of that, I've discovered some things that maybe I could have lived my life without discovering. Anyway, that's another story for a very private conversation. Anyway, if you're going to be a good author, a successful author, you want to cultivate curiosity. You want to learn about yourself as an author and as a person, because part of what makes your books unique and wonderful is what you bring to that story. I mean, 5 authors could have the same writing prompt and write basically the same story, and they will be completely different because they were 5 different people. And as an author, you want to learn about your audience. What are their hopes? What are their aspirations? What are they looking for that you can provide? Now, I'm not saying only write for the audience and who cares about yourself. No, you want that intersection of what you love to do and what your audience loves to read. But you're not going to know what that intersection is if you don't explore and learn about your audience. Don't get curious. If you don't get curious about your audience, you're never going to find that intersection. And reflect regularly. That means take a look at how things are going. Reflect about your life, about yourself, about your audience, about your work. Take time to just sit back and think and reflect. So those are my 5 basic tips for fostering an author's growth. Wow, look at that. The light shining from outside playing across my face. Ooh. Okay, I'm really easily distracted. Sorry about that. Anyway, here is a bonus author growth mindset tip number 6. Control what you can. Life is full of things you can't control, but it's also filled with things you can. You can't control others, but you can control yourself. Take charge of your author's journey rather than let it take charge of you. And focus on what you can change or fix when things do go wrong. Control what you can control. Now, that's probably one of the best. And I've got one last tip for you. This is the best word to use to transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Want to know what that word is? That word is yet. So I can't write a book yet. I can't publish a book yet. I can't write comedy yet. Or is that just me? Am I just me? What yet does is say, okay, it honors where you are right now, either in reality or just in mindset, but it opens the door for something different in the future. Whatever you're thinking now, that's just where you are now. So if yet doesn't work, you can also add for now. It's like, I suck at book marketing. Well, yet doesn't make sense there. So you say, I suck at book marketing for now, which means later I can be excellent at book marketing, right? So yet or for now, append those to every negative statement you make about yourself as a person or as an author. Yet, for now, whichever one makes the most sense. So now I have something to share with you. Would you like to know how you can take charge of your author's journey? Remember, control what you can without spending a dime. I have developed a system that gets to the best book idea that you have without falling into any of the mental potholes that I discussed today, so that you can confidently write a book that attracts readers, becomes a bestseller, and you both enjoy writing and talking about in as little as an hour. Even if you think you have nothing worth sharing, that you lack creativity, and that you're a terrible writer for now. Would you like to know what that is? Have I transformed you from non-yes Thor to yes Thor? I'm hoping so, because I have something for you that is based on the 4 pillars of a book that markets your business. And I'm going to share with you a little bit what those 4 pillars are and what they mean. The first pillar is purpose. You and your book need to have a purpose. And your book idea needs to be in alignment with your purpose as a person, your purpose in your author career or business, and your reader's purpose. Pillar number 2 is passion. Your book idea needs to be in alignment with your passion and your reader's passion. Again, we're always talking about intersection and possibility. There needs to be a market out there. There needs to be people who want to read about what you want to write about. Otherwise, it won't sell. And it needs to have a peerless quality. That means it needs to be unique to you. You need to be the only person who could have written that book, which is a given, but there are things you can do to make sure that uniqueness is communicated and you don't write just a generic book. So again, those are the 4 pillars that market your business. And I've used these 4 pillars to develop a diagnostic tool that will make and analyze your book idea to make sure it has all 4. So let me put it to you this way. If there was a way to ensure your book idea had all 4 of these pillars secured, was bestseller worthy, and was primed to market your business in as little as 60 minutes, would that help you foster an author's growth mindset? You think? I think so. And would you take it? Because it is. And these people did it. The people I'm going to share with you right now are people who've gone through my book idea diagnostic. Chike MacArthur, who's like in Nigeria, he called me from Nigeria. It was like it was in the middle of the night when we talked. He said before the book idea diagnostic session, his idea was really vague. But after the session, he knew that he had some work to do, yes, but he found the experience so amazing that he recommends everybody experience this diagnostic. Brooke Packard, she had like tons of ideas and wasn't sure which one to go for. And she was also doubtful as to whether, any of the ideas were going to work. Well, by going through this diagnostic, we were able to help her clarify which one was the first one she should work on and how that might pan out as a series. And she had gained a clear roadmap on how to strengthen the weaker parts of her idea and her plan. And she left the session feeling much more clarity, hope, and raring to go on to the next steps. Wanda Washington, who I actually walked through the book idea methodology, and then she signed up for the book idea diagnostic. And even after going through that idea, she was still like hesitating, do I want to write a book or not? But after the book idea diagnostic, she really realized why she kept even thinking about writing a book, and was really ready to pay attention to those steps that she needed to take to improve her idea and bring her message to the world. And then there was Yasmin Anal, who is a high performance coach and an amazing woman. And now, and she's very solid in her idea, but because of the idea diagnosis, she did understand where it needed a little bit of work. And she also understood how to make it peerless. I think that was probably her biggest takeaway, because her idea could be very easily generic, but I gave her some pointers, and the diagnostic itself gave her pointers on how she could make it peerless. So now, what if I told you that this amazing solution was free? At least for now. I'm thinking possibly through the end of the year. If you book after that, I'm probably going to be raising the price to about $300, maybe more, because honestly, this session is easily worth $1,000. But right now, I'm giving it to you for free if you sign up now. And so how do you feel about this? Are you, Groot, I am Groot, who cares about this? I'm out of here. Or are you, I am Groot, woo, yippee, give me the book diagnostic, give me the link, I want it now. We're going to assume that, because here's what you need to do now. You need to schedule your book idea diagnostic, because this diagnostic session identifies where your book is strong, illuminates where your book needs a little bit of work, and it helps you discern if this is the right book for you. Okay, because that's important. And it does this without you needing to guess, without you needing to sit there and wonder, I wonder if this book idea is the right one for me. And you don't have to do it alone, because I'm there with you. And I can do this in as little as 45 minutes. I found that the sessions, depending on the person and where they are with the ideas and how much we talk after the session, after the diagnostic itself, because it can lead to other conversations, they last anywhere between 45 minutes and as much as 90 minutes. But that person who I did 90 minutes with, she was ready to buy and wanted to talk about how I could work with her. So that's why that conversation went long. Most of these sessions last about 45 minutes, 40 to 60 minutes. So there you go. And it's amazing. I love watching the light bulbs go off over people's head when they go through this session. It's really exciting. And you can benefit from the session, even if you've never written a book before, even if you're not 100% sure, you've just kind of got a vague, cloudy idea. And even if you have tons of ideas and don't know which one you need to go through, which one you should move forward with, because this diagnostic can help you do that. You know what? That might be my cup. It is my cup. I'll move the cup. So now the choice is yours. You could choose door number 1, and that's continue with what you've been doing and getting the same results. Didn't we talk about that earlier? That isn't that the definition of insanity? So I'm hoping you're not choosing door number 1, because door number 1 leads to Crazyville. You could choose door number 2, and it's viable. And that's basically go it alone, you're an island, and just use the information I've given you today to move forward. I mean, you could just consume all of my free stuff and all of everybody else's free stuff and just, do it on your own, because I've been there, I've done that. And that's why it took me so long to get to where I wanted to be. And now I'm hiring people because I want to get to where I want to be faster. And that's door number 3. And door number 3, I'm not even asking for money at this point. I'm just saying, sign up. It's free. And you'll get expert advice, you'll get clarity, and you'll get the direction that you're seeking. It's really a no-brainer. And so you can schedule your book idea diagnostic session today. I mean, my calendar is kind of full, so it may take a little while to find the right time that works for you and me at the same time, but it's there, it's on the calendar. And all you have to do is go to authorneering.com/book diagnostic. That page will tell you more about the book diagnostic session. There's a button where you can go to sign up to get to my calendar. So I highly recommend you do this. And that is the end of the presentation. I hope that you have learned from this. I hope that you've gained value. And I hope that you are able to further your journey toward having an awesome author's growth mindset.